Daniel Whitmore walks into his 9-year-old son Ethan's room and finds the new housekeeper on his knees beside the bed, slicing open Ethan's pillow with a kitchen knife. For a moment, Daniel cannot breathe. Feathers burst into the air like a slow explosion. White fragments drift down across the lamplight. Ethan lies asleep, pale and fragile beneath the blankets, completely unaware. The knife glints. The housekeeper freezes. "What are you doing?" Daniel's voice comes out low, shaking with something far more dangerous than anger. "What are you doing to my son?" Gabriel Reyes slowly lowers the blade. He does not run. He does not panic. He looks up, eyes steady, urgent. "Sir, please don't wake him." Daniel crosses the room in 2 strides and grabs Gabriel by the collar, yanking him backward. "You step away, now." The knife clatters harmlessly to the hardwood floor. Feathers cling to Gabriel's sleeves, but beneath the pillow stuffing, something else spills out. A small, clear plastic sachet, filled with fine white powder. Daniel sees it. His grip loosens. "What is that?" he demands. Gabriel swallows hard. "That," he says carefully, "is not supposed to be inside your son's pillow." The room feels smaller, tighter. For 4 years, Daniel has lived inside hospitals, test results, whispered consultations, and medical terminology that blurred together into one endless nightmare. He has watched Ethan shrink from a laughing, soccer-playing 5-year-old into a fragile child who measures his day in doses and side effects. And now this. "You better explain yourself," Daniel says, voice shaking. Gabriel stands slowly, hands visible. "I didn't put it there." "Then why are you cutting it open at 2 in the morning?" "Because I couldn't wait until morning." Daniel's jaw tightens. "Speak clearly." Gabriel meets his eyes. "I think someone has been dosing your son." The word lands heavy. Dosing. Not treating, not medicating. Dosing. Daniel steps back like he's been struck. That's insane. But even as he says it, something cold moves through his chest, because nothing about Ethan's illness has ever made sense. It started with fatigue, then stomach pain, then tremors, then vomiting so violent Daniel thought his son would break apart. Specialists from Boston, Cleveland, Toronto, genetic panels, autoimmune testing, neurological scans, experimental therapies, millions of dollars. No answers. Only one constant. Dr. Rebecca Hale, the doctor who stayed, the doctor who promised, the doctor who told him over and over, "We just need more time." Daniel looks down at the powder. "You're accusing a physician who has dedicated 4 years to my son." Gabriel's voice remains calm. "I'm accusing a pattern." Daniel hesitates. Gabriel continues. "Every morning, Dr. Hale brings that thick purple smoothie. It's a nutrient therapy." "Yes, sir. And within 2 hours, Ethan crashes, vomiting, weak, heart racing." Daniel's breath slows, because it's true. "It's part of the condition," Daniel says weakly. Gabriel shakes his head. "Not yesterday. Yesterday he fell asleep before finishing it." Daniel remembers. For the first time in months, Ethan had asked for toast that afternoon. He hadn't vomited. He had even smiled. "Coincidence," Daniel whispers. "Maybe," Gabriel says, "but I've seen medication reactions before. I worked as a hospital orderly for 6 years. You learn what decline looks like." He gestures toward the sachet. This was sewn into the lining, not dropped, not accidental.
Daniel feels something fracture inside him. Why would anyone do this? Gabriel hesitates only a second. Money. Daniel's eyes flash. Dr. Hale is respected, decorated. She doesn't need money. Gabriel says nothing. Silence thickens the air. Daniel looks at Ethan, thin arms resting outside the blanket, skin almost translucent in the lamplight. He already buried his wife 9 years ago. He cannot bury this child, too. "You're risking your job," Daniel says quietly. Gabriel nods. "I know." "Why?" And this time, Gabriel's voice shifts, because it isn't professional anymore. It's personal. "My younger brother died from a misdiagnosis. I knew something wasn't right. I stayed quiet because I wasn't the expert." Daniel doesn't move. "I promised myself I'd never ignore my instincts again." He steps closer to the bedside. "I'm not asking you to believe me tonight. I'm asking you to watch tomorrow morning. Don't interrupt. Don't confront. Just observe." Daniel stares at the powder, at the torn pillow, at the man standing in his son's bedroom at 2:17 a.m. For 4 years he has been terrified of losing Ethan. But now a new fear rises. What if the danger has been inside his own home? Gabriel gently places the sachet on the dresser. "If I'm wrong," he says quietly, "you can fire me in the morning." Daniel looks at his son again. Ethan shifts in his sleep and whispers something intelligible. Daniel feels his chest tighten, because for the first time he is not just afraid of the illness, he is afraid of the cure. And once doubt enters a father's heart, it never leaves quietly. On Move to Hope, we believe one moment of courage can change everything. And tomorrow morning, Daniel Whitmore is going to watch very carefully.
Before we dive in, let us know in the comments which city you're watching from. We'd love to see how far these stories travel. And subscribe to Move to Hope, because these stories are built by the support of good people like you. Daniel Whitmore did not sleep. He sat in the leather chair beside Ethan's bed until dawn, staring at the torn pillow on the floor. The small plastic sachet lay on the dresser. He hadn't touched it again, hadn't called security, hadn't fired Gabriel, because something inside him, something he didn't want to name, told him to wait. At 7:42 a.m., footsteps echoed down the hallway, measured, confident. Dr. Rebecca Hale never rushed. She entered Ethan's room with her usual calm smile, carrying a stainless steel thermal tumbler. "Good morning, Daniel," she said warmly. "How's our fighter today?" Daniel forced a nod. Ethan stirred weakly. Dr. Hale moved toward the bedside table and poured the smoothie into a clear medical cup. Thick, deep purple, almost glossy. Daniel watched carefully, every movement, every detail. "New supplement blend," Dr. Hale explained. "We're adjusting the mitochondrial support again. I have a good feeling about this one." She handed the cup to Ethan. "Small sips, champ." Ethan wrinkled his nose. "It tastes weird." "It's helping you," she said gently. "Trust me." Daniel's stomach tightened. "Trust me." Ethan drank, slowly, reluctantly. Daniel kept his eyes on the clock. 8:03 a.m., 8:19 a.m., 8:47 a.m. At 9:12, Ethan's hands began to tremble. Daniel noticed it before Dr. Hale did. By 9:28, Ethan pressed his palm against his chest. "My heart feels funny." Dr. Hale stepped forward immediately. "That's the treatment activating." At 9:41, Ethan vomited violently into the basin. By 10 o'clock, his skin had turned pale gray. Daniel stood frozen.
every detail exactly as Gabriel had described. The pattern, the crash. Dr. Hale moved efficiently, checking vitals, making notes. "This progression is expected," she said calmly. "The body resists before it heals." Daniel's throat felt dry. Expected, progression, healing. Words he had clung to for 4 years. After stabilizing Ethan, Dr. Hale packed her bag. "I'll return this evening for the next dose. Stay consistent." Daniel nodded numbly. When she left the room, Gabriel appeared quietly in the doorway. He didn't speak. He didn't need to. Daniel looked at his son, trembling under the blankets, and felt something inside him begin to crack. "This could still be coincidence," Daniel whispered. Gabriel stepped closer. "Then let's test it." Daniel's head snapped up. "No confrontation," Gabriel said quickly. "No accusations, just observation." He lowered his voice. "Skip the evening smoothie." Daniel stared at him. "That's risky. So is doing nothing." The words hung in the air. Daniel had spent 4 years following instructions, signing consent forms, trusting specialists, watching his son decline anyway. By 6 p.m., Dr. Hale had not yet returned. The smoothie sat prepared in the kitchen refrigerator, delivered earlier by courier. Daniel opened the fridge and stared at it. Purple, thick, sealed. He closed the door. That evening, when Ethan woke, groggy but stable, Daniel made a decision that felt like rebellion. "No smoothie tonight," he told him gently. Ethan blinked. "Will I get worse?" Daniel forced a smile. "Let's just try something different." Gabriel said nothing, but Daniel noticed the tension in his posture. They waited. 7 p.m., 8 p.m., 9 p.m. No vomiting. No tremors, no heart racing. At 9:37 p.m., Ethan sat up slightly. "Dad?" "Yes?" "I'm hungry." Daniel's chest caved in. Hungry. It had been months since Ethan had asked for food voluntarily. Gabriel quietly brought toast. Ethan ate it, kept it down. Daniel turned away so his son wouldn't see the tears in his eyes. By midnight, Ethan was sleeping peacefully. No seizures, no panic, no crash. Daniel walked into his office and shut the door. He opened the small safe in his desk. Inside lay a copy of his will. He flipped through the pages with trembling hands. He remembered the night he updated it. Desperate, broken. Dr. Hale had stayed when every other specialist withdrew. He had wanted to reward loyalty, to guarantee commitment. His finger stopped on a paragraph. Medical stewardship provision. In the event of Ethan Whitmore's death before age 18, Dr. Rebecca Hale shall receive compensation of $3.5 million in recognition of sustained medical dedication. Daniel's vision blurred. $3.5 million. His knees weakened. He sank into the chair. Had he created motive? Outside the office door, he could hear Gabriel quietly cleaning the kitchen. The house felt different tonight, less like a hospital, more like a home. Daniel pressed his face against his hands. For 4 years, he had feared losing his son to disease. Now a darker possibility formed. What if the illness had never been fighting them? What if someone had been feeding it? Daniel stood slowly and walked back toward Ethan's room. Gabriel was standing near the doorway. Ethan was asleep, peaceful, color slightly better. "You saw it," Gabriel said softly. "I did." And for the first time since this nightmare began, he was no longer afraid of the unknown. He was afraid of the truth.
Daniel Whitmore stared at the will for a long time. The words did not change. They did not soften. They did not explain themselves. $3.5 million. Medical stewardship provision. Paid upon Ethan's death before age 18. He remembered the night he signed it. Ethan had just come home from another failed hospital stay. Tubes, bruises, weight loss. Dr. Hale had stayed past midnight reviewing charts, whispering reassurances. "She needs to know we value her," Daniel's attorney had said. Daniel hadn't hesitated. He had believed loyalty deserved security. Now the clause read like a contract with something far darker. A quiet knock broke the silence. Gabriel stepped into the office. "You found something," he said gently. Daniel handed him the document without speaking. Gabriel read the paragraph once, then again. His jaw tightened. "That's motive," he said quietly. Daniel felt physically ill. "I thought I was ensuring she wouldn't abandon him." "You ensured she had reason not to cure him." The words hit like a blow. Daniel stood abruptly. "No, we don't know that." Gabriel met his eyes. "Then we gather proof." Daniel's hands shook slightly. "How?" Gabriel hesitated, choosing his words carefully. "There's a locked cabinet in the medical suite." Daniel's head snapped up. "You broke into it?" "Not yet," Gabriel replied, "but I've noticed she keeps a separate key." Daniel exhaled slowly. For 4 years, that third-floor medical wing had been Dr. Hale's domain. He rarely entered without her invitation. It felt sterile, controlled, authoritative. Tonight, it felt like a crime scene waiting to be uncovered. At 1:10 a.m., when the house was silent again, Daniel and Gabriel walked quietly up the stairs. The medical suite smelled faintly of disinfectant and lavender. Machines lined the walls, supplements organized with clinical precision, and against the far wall, a narrow cabinet with a digital lock. Daniel swallowed. "If we're wrong." Gabriel looked at him. "If we're wrong, you apologize and fire me." Daniel entered Ethan's birthday, hoping he was mistaken. The cabinet beeped, unlocked. Daniel's stomach dropped. Inside were several unmarked containers, dried plant material in sealed bags, a small laboratory scale, and a black leather notebook. Gabriel handed it to Daniel. His fingers trembled as he opened it. Neat handwriting, dates, dosages. January 14, increased to 0.25 milligrams, symptoms consistent, father reassured. March 2nd, slight improvement after missed dose, must monitor staff interference. April 18th, estate will finalized, compensation secured. Daniel felt the room spin. There it was, in ink, compensation secured. His knees buckled and he grabbed the counter to steady himself. "She documented it," Gabriel whispered. Daniel flipped further. Long-term administration continues to mimic degenerative cardiac condition. Sustainable. Sustainable, like she was discussing an investment portfolio. Daniel pressed his palm over his mouth to keep from making a sound. 4 years. Birthdays spent in hospital rooms. Christmas mornings with oxygen monitors humming in the background. Ethan asking if he was going to die like his mother. And all along, it wasn't a mystery illness. It was calculated, profitable, slow. Daniel's voice broke. "I thanked her." Gabriel didn't interrupt. "I told her she was the only one who never gave up." His shoulders began to shake. "I paid her." The weight of that realization crushed him. He had signed the clause, transferred the bonuses, praised her publicly. He had unknowingly funded the destruction of his own child. Gabriel stepped closer. "You were desperate. That doesn't make you guilty." Daniel shook his head. "It makes me blind." Silence filled the suite. Then Daniel straightened. No more shaking, no more disbelief,
Only resolve. We take him to the hospital, now. Gabriel nodded. No warning? Daniel's expression hardened in a way Gabriel had not seen before. No warning. At 2:03 a.m., Daniel walked into Ethan's bedroom. His son stirred as he gently lifted him. "Dad? We're going on a ride, buddy." Ethan's voice was sleepy. "Is it bad?" Daniel pressed his lips to his forehead. "It's about to get better." Gabriel grabbed a blanket and followed. They moved quietly down the staircase, past the grand foyer, past the silent security cameras. Daniel didn't look back, because he knew one thing now with terrifying clarity. The illness that had been stealing his son was sleeping under his own roof, and by morning, someone would be in handcuffs.
At 3:11 a.m., Daniel Whitmore burst through the emergency entrance of St. Vincent Medical Center, carrying his son in his arms. "My son has been poisoned," he said, voice steady but urgent. "Digitalis, long-term exposure." The triage nurse didn't hesitate. Within seconds, Ethan was surrounded. Monitors, IV lines, blood draws, a crash cart wheeled into position. Daniel stood against the wall, watching professionals move with a speed he had begged for years to see. This time, they weren't searching for a mystery, they were hunting a toxin. Gabriel stood beside him silently. At 4:02 a.m., a toxicologist entered. "We're running immediate cardiac panels," she said. "If this is digitalis or foxglove derivative, we'll know quickly." Daniel nodded. His hands felt numb. At 5:18 a.m., the results came back. The toxicologist's face was grave. "There are elevated cardiac glycoside levels consistent with chronic digitalis exposure." Daniel closed his eyes. Chronic, not accidental, not environmental, administered. "For how long?" Daniel asked. "Based on organ stress markers, possibly years." Years. The word echoed like a gunshot. The toxicologist continued. "Another month, maybe less, and his heart likely would have gone into irreversible failure." Daniel felt his knees weaken, but this time he didn't fall, because Ethan was alive, still alive. "We've started treatment," she said. "It will be difficult, but the damage appears reversible." Reversible, a word Daniel hadn't heard in 4 years. At 6:30 a.m., Daniel handed the leather journal, the will clause, and the pillow sachet to hospital security, who had already contacted the police. By 7:12 a.m., 2 detectives were in the consultation room taking statements. Gabriel told them everything: the pattern, the smoothies, the missed dose, the locked cabinet. Daniel's voice remained controlled, precise. When he finished, one detective looked at him carefully. She knew exactly what she was doing. Daniel's jaw tightened. Yes. At 8:04 a.m., squad cars pulled into the Whitmore estate driveway. Dr. Rebecca Hale was already outside. She stood beside her car, 2 suitcases loaded, sunglasses on, composed. She did not look surprised. When the detectives approached, she removed her glasses calmly. "This is unnecessary," she said evenly. One detective spoke. "We have evidence of long-term poisoning of a minor under your care." Her expression didn't shift. "That's absurd." The leather journal was produced, the dosage notes, the will clause, the lab confirmation. For the first time, something flickered behind her eyes. Not fear, annoyance. "You don't understand long-term integrative treatment protocols," she said sharply. The detective read aloud from her notebook. "Compensation secured, sustainable administration continues." The air shifted. The mask cracked. Her voice changed, colder.
You know how many children die every day? At least I was ensuring something came from it." One of the officers stepped forward. "You're under arrest for aggravated poisoning and attempted homicide." The handcuffs clicked around her wrists. For the first time, she showed emotion, rage. That housekeeper ruined everything. 4 years of precision. Precision, like she was describing a research project, not a child. News traveled fast. By mid-morning, media vans lined the estate gates. Headlines flashed across networks. Prominent pediatric specialist arrested. Billionaire's son allegedly poisoned for years. Public outrage ignited instantly. Medical boards suspended her license within hours. But Daniel didn't watch the coverage. He sat beside Ethan's hospital bed. Machines beeped softly. Antidote treatment running through IV lines. Ethan's breathing steadier than it had been in years. Around noon, Ethan opened his eyes. "Dad?" Daniel leaned forward immediately. "I'm here, buddy." Ethan blinked slowly. "I don't feel sick." "Good." There was a long pause. Then Ethan asked the question Daniel had feared. "Was it Dr. Hale?" Daniel did not lie. "Yes." Ethan was quiet, not shocked, not confused, just quiet. "Was I ever really broken?" he whispered. Daniel's voice cracked. "No, you were never broken." Tears slid down his face freely now. "You were brave." Gabriel stood near the doorway. Ethan turned his head slightly. "You knew, didn't you?" Gabriel stepped closer. "I noticed something didn't make sense." Ethan gave a small nod. "I wrote it down once, that the drink made my heart feel weird." Daniel looked at him. "You were right." For the first time in 4 years, Daniel felt something stronger than fear. Hope. Because the person who had tried to control their future was in custody, and the child who was meant to fade quietly was still here, still fighting, still breathing.
3 months later, the Whitmore estate no longer sounded like a hospital. The machines were gone. No more oxygen monitors humming through the night. No more stainless steel trays of medications lined across countertops. Sunlight filled the 3rd floor again. Curtains stayed open. Windows cracked just enough to let in fresh spring air. And for the first time in 4 years, Ethan Whitmore ran. Not far, not fast, but he ran. Across the backyard lawn, uneven steps, arms slightly out for balance, laughing as he chased a golden retriever Daniel had finally said yes to. Daniel stood near the garden fountain watching, hands in his pockets, heart full in a way he didn't know was still possible. The cardiologist had confirmed it 2 weeks earlier. The damage is healing. His heart rhythm is stabilizing beautifully. Healing, a word Daniel once thought belonged to other families, not his. Gabriel stood beside him, quieter than usual. He had enrolled in nursing school. Daniel insisted on funding it, not as charity, as gratitude. "You gave him his life back," Daniel had said. Gabriel's answer was simple. "No, I just refused to look away." Across the lawn, Ethan tripped and caught himself. Daniel instinctively took a step forward, but Ethan straightened on his own. "I'm okay," Ethan shouted proudly. Daniel laughed. "You're more than okay." Later that afternoon, they sat together on the back patio. Ethan held something behind his back. "For you," he said, handing it to Gabriel. It was a drawing, crayons pressed hard into paper, a tall knight standing in front of a small boy. The knight held a shield shaped like a heart. "You're the knight," Ethan said. Gabriel swallowed hard. "Why?" "Because you saw the dragon when nobody else did." Daniel looked away briefly, blinking back tears. 4 years of fear. 4 years of watching his son fade.
4 years of trusting the wrong person. He had replayed it in his head countless times, the will clause, the bonuses, the praise. He had almost handed his child's future to someone who valued money over life. But he had also made one decision that changed everything. He listened. That was all. He listened to a man with no medical degree, no reputation, no authority, just courage. That evening, as Ethan slept peacefully, real sleep, steady breathing, no monitors, Daniel stood in the doorway. Gabriel joined him quietly. "I almost lost him," Daniel said softly. Gabriel nodded. "But you didn't." Daniel looked at him. "What would you have done," he asked quietly, "if you were in my place?" Gabriel didn't hesitate. "I hope I would have listened sooner." Daniel nodded slowly, because that was the truth that stayed with him. Trust is powerful, but blind trust can be deadly. And sometimes the person who saves your life is the one brave enough to question the expert. Down the hall, Ethan turned in his sleep and whispered something unintelligible. Daniel smiled. "He's dreaming." "About what?" Gabriel asked. Daniel looked toward the closed bedroom door. "About running." And for the first time since his wife's death, Daniel felt peace instead of fear when he thought about tomorrow. Some promises are made in graveyards, some are made in hospital rooms, and some are kept in the quiet decision to speak when everyone else stays silent. One voice, one moment, one choice. That's all it takes to change a life. If you were Daniel Whitmore, if you had trusted a respected doctor for 4 years, would you have questioned her? Would you have listened to Gabriel? Or would fear have kept you silent? Tell me honestly in the comments, what would you have done? And if this story moved you, please take a second to like this video. It helps more people discover stories that matter. Subscribe to Move to Hope for more powerful emotional stories about courage, justice, and second chances. Because sometimes the miracle isn't medicine, it's the moment someone chooses to speak up. And sometimes that someone is you.